Today's got us snowed in. We got about 3 inches of snow overnight from all the mud and the rain yesterday. So today I'm going to install our vanity sink finally. It finally showed up. Got it home last night. We had to order it. So I'm going to pull this countertop off. It's just resting on here. Pull it off, give it a quick sand. We put an initial coat of clear coat on here, just spray it on to kind of seal things up. I'm going to sand it down another time and hit it again with some clear coat so it should be in real good shape. And then once that cures, I'm going to go ahead and mount the sink in place here. It's a vessel sink. It sits on top of the counter. Before we do that though, I left this countertop the full width of the original, which is 24 inches. And that's too wide. It overhangs like 3.5, 4 inches off of the front. So I'm going to rip about 3 inches off, and I'll use that as a backsplash up here on the back, and that'll narrow up the countertop and get it a more appropriate size.
We've been wanting this sink installation finished for quite some time now. When the weather's good outside, it's hard to make this kind of a project a priority when there's so many other things to do. Rainy, snowy days like this one make it easier to put a project like this at the top of the priority list.
So I just finished filling in some of these little knot holes and a couple of splits and gaps. While I was gluing this up, I put a little glue in those, threw some sawdust on them, worked that into the groove, and then sanded it while the glue is still tacky. Put more sawdust into that, mix it in. Fills the gaps pretty good, seals the gaps, and it'll take the clear coat pretty well too, so just helps a little bit. Now, I'm confident the clamps are going to hold just fine on this. The clamps and the glue are going to be everything this thing needs, but I want to keep moving forward today and get this in. So I'm going to add some screws through the bottom and up into this backer, and that's going to hold it permanently, so I can remove the clamps, take it inside for a little bit, let it warm up. It's decent out here, but the surface is colder than I'd like for it to take this clear coat very well. Bring it back out, shoot it with the clear coat, and let that flash off for about 15 minutes. We'll shoot it again with another coat. That should be enough. We hit this with a clear coat initially. Most of that soaked in and kind of sealed the surface, so it should be pretty well sealed up. I hit it with the light sandpaper. That's a 220 sanding, just enough to rough the surface and smooth it down a little bit. Once everything's warmed up, just a quick wipe, make sure there's no more dust, glue residue, anything like that on there before I hit it with that clear coat. I'm going to put 6 screws across the back here, one on each end, about 3 inches in from the clamps, and then another 2 like that, just to kind of space it out, maybe 5, I don't know, something like that. Anyway, I'm going to put those in using my favorite dang bit for screws. It's a spiral taper bit with a countersink bore on the top, and that countersink sleeve is adjustable, so I can move it up or down that drill bit. There's 2 or 3 different sizes, so depending on the size of screw that I'm using, it pre-drills the initial material with a taper bit, so the screw comes in and starts real easy, moves through without splitting, has the countersink head already bored so it can sit in nice and flush, and I just don't have anything split when I use them. I'm using these GRK construction screws to go into there. They're 3 inch long, that's cut at 3 inches, and this is about 1.25 inches thick. So they're not going to run out the top. They're going to be plenty strong and sturdy. Yeah, let's see, about the middle. I didn't bring a measuring tape down, so I'm going to use that to get an even balance and find my center. And then I'll probably just split that. You can see all I'm doing is using it as a reference. And there's that much overlap. So I'm just going to split that difference. And I'll tell you that that's going to get me within 1/8 of an inch of where it needs to be. So aside from actually measuring with the tape, oh man, that one needs to be right where my clamp is. Without doing that, it'll get me awful dang close. So those screws pulled everything down in even tighter than I was able to get with these squeeze clamps.
I knew this project was anything but typical. That meant it was going to have its own set of challenges that would have to be figured out on the fly and would end up taking more time to install than a standard typical installation would. So while the paint cured for a couple of hours, I went into town, picked up the materials I thought I would need, and hoped that I had everything and didn't have to go back for more. Luckily, with only one trip into town for supplies and materials, I was able to work through the challenges of this project and get it all completed in one day, even though it took me all day long.
I realized that I'd sprayed that with gloss and I wanted a semi-gloss finish. So while it was still tacky enough, I thought I'd bring it back out here, get a coat of semi-gloss over the top so that it will bond chemically, and then get it back in. Had to hustle, but that's why I like the birch. The aspen has that same quality, this striping that comes through when you get a finish on it. So you come to this side and that striping goes away. But when you get the light reflecting through it, the striping comes through. It's pretty. A couple hours later and the finish turned out really nice. It's dry to touch, but it's probably still a little bit firm or a little bit soft for cure. But I had to run in. We have a faucet that we were going to use. It's an old kitchen type faucet, tall. And it's one we had from our house before in the utility room. And we're just going to use it because we got it. It's a really nice, kind of high-end mowing faucet. And with the vessel sink here, we needed a taller faucet to come over the top. And we remembered we had it, so we just thought, why spend for another faucet? That one will work great. Might be a little tall like a kitchen faucet, but who cares? It'll still look fine. It'll do great. So on my sink, I had to go in and get a drain because the kitchen faucets don't come with the sink drain. So I'm hoping what I got fits, because I got to the store and I had to look up the specs on this sink, because I got there and realized that it wasn't going to be a standard bathroom sink drain. The hole in this sink is bigger, so I'm hoping this is the right one. Looks like it's going to be. It's a bit bigger drain. Oh, yes. Good. Okay. It's going to work. Maybe. Well, that doesn't give me anything to... Doesn't give me anything left to attach the nut. Okay. I'm not going to be able to use the rubber gasket that comes with it because it's too thick. Doesn't give me enough left over to get the downspout flange attached. Oh, that's going to be close anyway. We're going to get this figured out, that's for sure. Oh my gosh. That's going to just barely work. This is snug and this is snug. There's just barely enough threads for this flange nut to get down on there and tighten to the flange. So I'm going to have to put sealant in there instead and then use that. It's going to work. Now I need to figure out exactly where my placement's going to go with this.
The kitchen faucet and valve took some creative thinking, and I had to install them offset in order to give everything enough clearance for everything to work properly. But ultimately, it turned out really nice.
Okay, I think it'll work.
Ola got home from work that night just as I had finished the first test round, so of course she wanted to test it out for herself too. We're both pretty excited to have that in. The following morning was Wednesday, and we had a play date scheduled to go pick out our sheet metal and order it, and pick up a telehandler to bring it home. So this is Thursday morning, and we've got cleanup to do.
Next.
All right, I think if we this trailer moved over here, move the buckets, the welder, that stuff, just get all that kind of stuff cleared out of the way, we should be able to reach in and grab that hunk of plywood.
Okay.
At least slide it back over and get a hold of it, move it, and then
do you want to move it on top of that hunk of plywood?
maybe we'll move it over here.
Okay,
by
so
the
I gotta
wall.
clear that up. Do you want this anywhere?
Probably back here in the corner. It's going to be out of the way because we're going to be mostly working the walls with the trusses and all that. So it'll be out of the way enough if we just set it against the back wall here.
Okay.
And that should get us pretty well straight.
Okay.
So do you want to clean that up? I'll go fire some equipment up, get it warming up so we can move buckets and all kinds of things.
Okay. I can do that.
It's supposed to get to like 7 degrees tonight. So I wanted to clear that off. And this off here, if it's exposed and the snow's off of it, when it hits that cold, all that mud will freeze solid and it'll get a frost. So it'll be stable. If the snow stays on it, it won't freeze and it'll be squishy and muddy underneath. So should help.
The day after this is Friday, and the boys are out of school. So our plan was to get everything cleaned up, all the materials reorganized and stacked, and ready to go for Friday. That way we can start as a group and finish the beams and try to get as much done and get moving towards setting trusses. By this time, we'd had multiple days of waking up to small amounts of fresh snow. So all of our materials needed to get cleaned off and restacked. This is me saying we need to stack these over here by hand out of the way, and her saying, why do we have this lift if we got to move them by hand? Though she had a solid argument, we still needed to get the snow and ice off of each board, get them sorted and restacked, and everything laid out and organized so that we'd be ready to go to work the next day when we were all there to work together.